Alright, it's Monday, so you know what day it is. It's time for new releases again. Welcome back to my weekly YouTube show here. The point of new releases, if you haven't seen us before, or not us, it's just me really. The point of what I do here essentially is I talk about my favorite things that came out every week. And so this week's going to be no different. I've got 6 great albums to talk about today. This week's actually been pretty amazing. We've had a couple of dry weeks where I've kind of had trouble getting enough together for video. If that does happen though, I'm extremely picky. I'm not going to include shit just for the sake of having a longer video. This week's been good though, so I have 6 releases to talk about, plus 2 other honorable mentions, I guess. It's kind of complicated, because the first one I actually can't include because it would be too biased, and that is Hermaeus Mora, Wandering the Apocrypha. And for those of you who know me here and who watch what I do, you probably know I actually have a podcast as well. I co-host the Take This Personally official podcast along with Clint. He's the other co-host, and who you can follow on Instagram, by the way, if you're interested. It is at slowkillinthecold. I will put that right down here. And my Instagram, by the way, because I realized I actually haven't put it in a video before, is at 4SA4GR. Again, that'll be right here. I have pretty much everything that I talk about in this video that somehow requires a link. I'm going to put links in the description. I've done that for all my videos so far, in case you haven't noticed. But anyways, so Clint, we work together on the podcast. He actually has just released his first... This is the first thing he's released in 2 years. He had a pretty long silence there. And then one day he just woke up and he was like, I'm gonna record an album. Or not an album, rather an EP. But he did. He recorded an album in one day and then trashed it and then did it again the next day and released that. And I am pretty hyped about it. To be honest, if I found that on my own for new releases, I probably would have flipped my shit over it. But if you like... he's very, very Abyssal influenced. If you like Abyssal and you like Impetuous Ritual, then this is definitely going to be something right up your alley. So I will recommend you to check that out, although I'm not going to talk about it as part of new releases, just because I feel like I am not able to objectively speak about it since I'm too close to the project. But anyways, so that's Hermaeus Mora, Wandering the Apocrypha. And I'm going to have a link down below. It's also going to be playing in the background of this video today, so you'll be able to get a sneak peek of it, I guess. Anyways, the other thing that I want to briefly mention before we get into things is the new split between Unearthly Trance and Primitive Man. So I usually don't talk about splits here on this YouTube show, on these videos, really. And the main thing is unless they're phenomenal, I don't really tend to talk about them. This is a case where this one is phenomenal, and I mean, I love both of those bands. If you're into sludge at all, I mean, this is pretty much a must. But I mean, I'm not going to formally talk about it as part of new releases, just because I find splits are kind of hard to work in there. But I did want to let you guys know that it did come out, and it is definitely worth a listen, so don't sleep on that shit. Anyways, so, number 6. I'm going to go from 6 all the way to 1, just like normal. So my number 6 for today is Voemir with their new demo. So this is their follow-up to last year's Nox Maledictus. And so these guys, if you've never heard them, they're Portuguese. A lot of great Portuguese raw black metals coming out these days. They're not related to Black Silice or Candelabrum or anything like that. As far as I know, they're actually part of another circle called the Aldebaran Circle. And some other members are Ordum Satanica, Oxalen's Brig, who I talked about last week because I had a fucking fantastic album, and Toronto Ella Morte. So if you like any of those bands, you should check this out. This album that they just put out recently is extremely disorienting, is the best way to put it. If you liked Oxalen's Brig last week, then you're definitely gonna like this too. It's kind of similar, but it sounds a little more more primeval and quite misanthropic at times, although that's not the whole thing. So it's pretty interesting stuff, and if you liked Nox Maledictus, then it is quite similar, although the production's a little less suffocating on this one. But still, this is a really great demo. I believe it's half an hour long, so it's actually a decent length. But yeah, so that's Voemir with their new demo. And once again, all the links are going to be in the description. The reason I'm talking about that so much today is because I realized some people didn't know that. So yeah, I do put all these links in the description. Okay, the next album I'm going to talk about, number 5, is Mörkötida. Mörkötida they're from Finland, I believe. And anyways, so these guys, Mörkötida means like polar winter. So in the northern regions of the world, for those of you who don't know, the sun actually doesn't rise in the winter, and it'll come really close to the horizon and like light the sky up in all these beautiful colors, but it will never actually come above the horizon. And so the world's just like plunged into darkness for quite some time. I know it happens in the northern parts of Canada here. It happens in, northern Scandinavia as well, stuff like that, northern Russia. These guys are from Finland. As far as I know, they're actually not from a polar region, but definitely seem to have taken some influence from that phenomenon in their sound, really. Because this album sounds like a polar winter. Like, it's quite cavernous, really. It's very dark. And it's got like this very compelling polar kind of atmosphere, just icy cold. And the vocals really are the standout feature on this album for sure. Like, this is the thing that drew me in right away about this. And it, although it does sound cold and hopeless, it actually somehow is still like got this appealing quality about it, which I guess would be similar to a polar winter. I mean, it's cold and it's dark and it's miserable, but at the same time, very beautiful. So I feel like, of course, I've experienced a polar summer, not a polar winter. But if I had to put a sound to it, I would say this is probably your closest shot. So if that sounds like an interesting atmosphere to you, then I hope you check this out. These guys, like I said, they're from Finland. They're a 2-man band, and this came out on Werewolf Records, I believe. They actually had a demo in 2012 that had a really limited run, but other than that, this is actually the first thing they've put out in about 6 years or so. So I'd say it's time well spent. And I actually read in an interview that they already have their next album finished, so like everything's good to go, but apparently it is quite different than this one, so that can either be a really good thing or a really bad thing. I think they have a really good thing going here, so I'd be sad to see them change it up, but guess we'll find out. So yeah, that was Mörkötida with Panphage Mysticism. Number 4, I believe number 4. Yes, number 4 is Black Tusk with TCBT. So I love Black Tusk. I'm really excited that they've put something else out. Basically what they sound like on this album is like if Mastodon and Black Flag had a baby, kind of. But like Remission's era Mastodon, not like fucking Emperor of Sand kind of bullshit Mastodon. Like the good stuff. So anyways, yeah, these guys are from Savannah, Georgia, and this came out on Season of Mist, I think. If you haven't heard them before, they actually do have a pretty extensive discography. They got a lot of material out there, but they haven't put anything out since 2016, so it is a welcome break for the silence. It seems weird saying that 2016 was like 2 years ago because it doesn't seem that long ago, but I guess it has been. Anyways, on this one, compared to their last album, they're kind of leaning a little bit more towards punk than metal, but nonetheless, is fantastic. You should enjoy this if you liked their 2016 album, which for some reason I can't remember the name. But yeah, you'll like it if you liked that. The bassist, I believe, is actually an ex-member of Kailasa, for anyone who hasn't checked them out and is kind of curious. Anyways, yeah, that's Black Tusk with TCBT. So the next album I'm going to talk about today, number 3, is Innumerable Forms with Punishment in Flesh. So anyways, this band is a pretty interesting mix of members. They have members from bands like Power Trip and Mammoth Grinder, but it doesn't sound anything like Nightmare Logic or anything like that. These guys they're Death Doom. This came out on Profound Lore, I believe, but it's kind of like Acts of the Unspeakable era Autopsy, although they're a little doomier, but they have like tons of filthy riffs, and they're interspersed with like these really violent death metal sections. It's just very, very well put together album. It keeps changing up, so it never loses your attention. And honestly, this is one that I could see myself listening to a lot over the next couple months. No promises yet, because it's too early to tell, but I can see this ending up on like my top 10 death metal albums of 2018, somewhere along the road, along with like Tomb Mold, Toronto represent. But yeah, so that's Innumerable Forms of Punishment in Flesh. Those guys, I should mention also, this is actually their first full-length album, so it is pretty exciting. And one last little bit of information, they're also from Boston, in case you were wondering, USA. But yeah, Innumerable Forms, Punishment in Flesh, definitely check that shit out if you're looking for some more good death metal for 2018. Speaking of more good death metal from 2018, here's another one. This is Carnation with Chapel of Abhorrence, and this one came out on Season of Mist. And so these guys, they're actually from Belgium, and this is like really high energy, crushing death metal, in the vein of like for fans of Bolt Thrower, if you like that. You can tell these guys have listened to like their fair share of Cannibal Corpse over the years, because I mean you can catch a lot of influence from that. But like this album, the riffs are like, they're catchy as all fuck. Like you listen to this once and you'll probably have the riffs stuck in your head for days. Like this is such a riffy album, and it's so good. Ugh, you gotta listen to it, especially if you're looking for more 2018 death metal. Like I said, this is gonna be stuck in your head for a long time, so it's kind of involuntary. You'll listen to it more than once. But yeah, Carnation with Chapel of Abhorrence, so do check that out, absolutely. That's another one that I can see myself, I'm probably gonna be putting this on plenty of times over the next few weeks, next few months. Which brings me to number 1. So, I know I don't normally choose an album like this for number 1, but this is worth it, trust me. So, this is Forming the Void with Rift. So, these guys are like a very, very rich sludge stoner. Couple, some progressive elements in there. It's kind of a really weird sound because it sounds like if Fear Factory was Doom, kind of. And it's kind of weird that I would describe it that way. I don't like Fear Factory at all, but this is good shit. It's honestly probably mainly the vocals that make me say that. I mean, the vocalists have some the tone of voice is pretty similar. But I mean, if you're looking to have it described in a more appealing way, it's probably like a sludgier High on Fire. Like these guys are great. Every time in Doom, if you see like a space mammoth or like some kind of mammoth in space or like any of that shit on a cover, that usually means you're gonna have a good time. So this one, it's got all the signs for a good album. But so they're from Louisiana, and this is on Bilocation Records, and this is actually their third full length. And it's just an absolute fucking pleasure all the way from front to back. It's such a good fucking time. Riffs for days, honestly. Especially on the song Arrival. Like, you will not forget about that riff. I actually, to put it into perspective, like how much I loved this album, I paid $8 for that, okay? I paid $8 US on that for like on Bandcamp. That's 11 fucking Canadian dollars on that. I tried to get the vinyl, it was sold out, but no, this is a really, really good album. Even if you don't usually like to check out like sludge stoner or anything like that, this is one that I recommend that you don't sleep on, because it's such a good, it's so much fun, like great vibes from this. But anyways, that is my number 1 for today, and I'm trying to keep these videos under 15 minutes, and we're at 14, so we're almost good. But anyways, the podcast that I recorded last night, usually my podcast comes out every Sunday evening, but last night we ran into some unexpected delays involving technical difficulties and all that wonderful stuff. So that will be out later today, probably around the same time as this video is uploaded. So don't sleep on that either. This episode was really fun. We actually went through like the history of like atmospheric black metal. We talked about the rise of Atmo shit and a whole bunch of really good stuff. Like, it was a good discussion, a little bit long, but please do join us on those. So you can find that on the website, takethispersonally.wordpress.com. We actually have a tab on the page for all the podcasts, and it's available there in both downloadable and streamable form. So yeah, check that out, and also don't forget to check out Hermaeus Mora, which I couldn't include as part of my official list because I'm too biased. But like, seriously though, like, it's really fucking good. Do listen to it. I have all these links in the bio and all that great shit. So yeah, this has been new releases for this week. I also I finally did something that wasn't new releases. So I also put out just like a vinyl collection video. I showed off like a small handful of my albums, and after I finished it, I realized I had like so much more that I should have included and I didn't. So I might make another one of those. And my collection has grown since then too. I've been buying shit, so I might make a collection update. And yeah, if there's any content like you want to see from me anyways besides these videos, I'm kind of coming into some free time now, so I'd be happy to put out some different kind of thing. But yeah, that's it for this week. So just a quick, rundown of all the shit. Check out Hermaeus Mora, check out the podcast, check out my new video. But yeah, I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and if you like any of this shit, let me know in the comments here. I'd love to hear other people's opinions. If you see anything that was really good that wasn't in this video, like, of course, like, comment that too, because I love the discussions that, end up popping up in the comments. So, yeah, have a great week.